Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm officially an elder. I am following in my grandfather's footsteps of speaking at Old Home Day. So, elder is code for old, in case you didn't know. You know, I've always felt so fortunate to have grown up in Hancock, and where else could you look 360 degrees around and see almost your entire childhood here? The people that you know, the schools you went to, the church where we graduated from, and I too remember the Evas owning the, not owning it, but running the telephone office, and the joints working there too. I also remember the teachers, and we had Miss Walsh, as Betty was saying, who taught my mother and my father. I think she might have taught my grandfather, but I'm not sure about that. I always thought she looked like George Washington, and I told my grandfather that. And I remember Miss Black. She taught from the 4th, 5th, and 6th grades. And I also remember Miss Manchester. Everyone was scared to death of her. But she was the principal when my mother and dad went to school. And then we had the good fortune to have all of the practice teachers who resided at the hotel. I think that was, yes. And Leah Hill owned that, I think, at the time. And I remember after school that we would tease anyone who was taking care of us to be able to go to Charlie Upton's store and get penny candy. And I think that was before the town shop was there, the store that's now there. I especially used to love Old Home Day. This was my favorite time, other than Halloween, of being in Hancock. My grandparents used to prepare floats for us every year, make our outfits, and we would ride along, taking all the credit for everything, of course. And I also remember I had a Shetland pony, and he was part mule, and I could not get him to step along in the parade. He went on the outskirts of it, and me with my brand new cowgirl outfit. I also remember the water sports, which were great, and going to the evening dances because that was where the boys were. We had the most wonderful preparation for life in the Hancock schools. It was a great balance between education, sports, music, art, and then we had time to think. I don't think kids have that anymore, but we had time to think. I remember my other teachers, Miss Labonte, who was here today. She was my French teacher, and I still know a few phrases. And Alan Breezy Mosley in the high school, and I'm sure you remember them. Mrs. Mosley was the coach in the sports, and Mr. Mosley sat in his office looking handsome. My favorite subject in school was English. I loved English, and I remember Mr. Mann, who taught us, and then my senior English teacher was Mr. Hart. And one day, as he was preparing us, we were studying poetry in school, and he was preparing us each to get up and recite a poem. So I was first, and he pumped me up, and he really presented me to the class, and he said, I know you're going to do well, and I was so eager to do that. I knew I was going to deliver. And all of you may remember the poem, but I said it like this: there is nothing so dare as a ray in June. That was the end of my public speaking for the day. Halloween was a very favorite time for all of us. We had a great time. We had auxiliary police in those days, and I remember that our friend's dad, Everett Adams, was one of the policemen, and we used to run through the cemetery. Of course, we hadn't done one single thing, but they had as much fun chasing us as we had of running through. Um, a favorite recollection about um, Halloween is that every single year, Dick Quinn and his buddies would arrange, and unbeknown to anybody, we never saw him do it, he and his friends would gather his father's wagon, put it on top of the Joe Quinn stand, and there it would be a sight to behold the next day, because we, of course, went home in the dark. The next day, it was an exercise in futility, because then the kids had to get up on the roof and take it back down again. However, he was a hero to all of us because we thought that was the greatest thing. Plus, we got to take a little time off of school in the morning when we were adjusting ourselves. And another story about the schools is this one is really about my sister, and since she lives in California, I can out her, and she'll never know.
I got it on tape.
I forgot to tell you that I was afraid no one would listen, so I brought all of my children and my grandchildren. My sister was a prankster, but she was a cautious one. So for days prior to Halloween, I think she was a sophomore, and she and her cohorts, and I think it was Billy Eva and Forrest Weston, they went around checking out the whole school the day before, and they found the electrical boxes which turned on the lights, and they opened a window just high enough so that they could scoot up on each other's shoulders that night when it was dark, lift the window, and get inside the school. They tipped over every single desk in the whole school, but they tipped it over gently. Not any papers came out, no destruction, which is unlike it might be today. And their final salute was to hit the switch. Every light in the entire school came on, and they vamoosed out of there. Makes a sister proud. I want to thank you so much for inviting me to speak, and it's so wonderful to see people here that I went to school with, one I dated, but he doesn't remember. I must have made a great impression. But thank you so much, and Hancock, thank you for wonderful memories.
Thank you, Joanne. I learned a little